We're going to be talking about grandparents today, and in so doing, families in general. But I noticed something this week, because he's had the diesel go out and had other issues with it. He's just started a new business, doing all that, and I noticed him driving around Richard's diesel. And I thought that was sweet, because I understood. Here's a man that desires to do well for his family. He's not lazy. He's doing all he can do. And some of y'all that own businesses, sometimes the cash flow isn't always when you need it. It's coming. It's just, when it happens. And usually the bills and the problems happen at times when we have to just rely on God to get us through. And another component that God places in our life is a good family. The fact that Richard allowed him to use a truck was a pretty cool thing. Get back to work and get back to making money instead of just suffering. Families are an awesome thing to have. Today we're going to be kind of focusing in on grandparents. It's Grandparents Day. If you got a grandparent, call them up, have them love them. I remember a time when my parents were about the age of Blake and Shauna, that when they went through financial problems, instead of staying together, they just kind of went their own way and did their thing, and the three of us kids just had to find somewhere to go. My dad did his business. My mom, just didn't want to have to deal with it at that time. And guess who took us in? Granddaddy and Grandma. What was going to seem like a horrible thing turned out to be some of the best years of my life. Grandparents are awesome. And it is a cool thing when family would jump in to help. When the ball is dropped, things are tough. We watch our kids, we watch our family, we jump in and help. Grandparents are something that should be acknowledged and say, hey, I'm very thankful for you. Over the past years, I've seen grandparents do too much and spoil. The word spoil is a very hard thing. It's a very nasty word. But when somebody is legitimately trying and they fall down, help them get back up. But to cuddle them where they never have to walk on their own is a terrible thing. So grandparenting is a cool thing. I'm a grandparent now. This is my day, right? I was going to show a video and trying to encourage Patty and Lauren not to kind of keep Linda, Bill, me, and Tammy out of the kids' lives, So, but it didn't look. The video was showing grandparents as being childish. That's only momentary things in our life. Normally, we're pretty good. Normally, Ephesians chapter 6 is where we'll be going today. And it's a short little thing of Ephesians chapter 6, but it's a cool concept of family. Not a lot mentioned in the Bible about grandparents, but just the family in general. The older teaches the younger, training up a child. Having someone to look up to is a cool thing. Several years ago, Reed Lindbergh, she's the daughter of the aviator Charles Lindbergh. And she was invited to give the annual Lindbergh address at the Smithsonian Institute. And they called her ahead of time and says, we want to do something special. We want you to come early, and we're going to, help. We're going to do something for you. And so she goes early to the Smithsonian Institute, and they roll a cherry picker in. And have you all been to the Smithsonian Institute? The Lindbergh plane is hanging up in the air. So they put in that cherry picker, and her little son, Ben, she puts her son in there, and they go up. 20 feet above the Smithsonian floor. She's eye to eye with her dad's plane that he flew across the Atlantic with. And she looks at the handover. Her dad probably hundreds of times opened the door, and just in awe of the moment, she reaches over and touches the handle. trembling voice. She goes, "Oh, Ben, isn't this amazing?" He goes, "Yeah, I've never been to cherry picker before." The whole moment, he missed it, because she's all enamored by the fact she gets the first time in her life to touch her dad's plane. He's all caught up with the idea of, the cherry picker. And kids miss it. They miss the big stuff. And that's the reason we got to train them to teach them when those things happen. Just let them know, man, this is something to watch for. I remember hanging out with Granddaddy, and we'd be walking along, and he'd stop. He'd stop doing his day because his grandson's around him, and he'd take a moment to teach me the importance of what was happening right then. And it was a pretty cool thing. One of the things I learned from my grandfather was not to be lazy. He worked us from when I went there at 8 years old. He worked me like a dog, but it was fun. It was fun to work. When my grandfather owned I don't know if you know what Green Brothers is. But Green Brothers was a big deal, and my grandfather supplied Green Brothers back when Green Brothers was even in business. But we worked doing making plants and stuff from early in the morning to late at night. It was fun though. But one of the things that you can do in your life is to teach the young ones around you how to live. It's an important thing to do. But we've got to teach the kids. There's just no way around. We have to teach them. Ephesians chapter 6, it says, "Children, obey the parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth." And those things that you honor them and train them to do that, they don't do that on their own. You have to teach them to obey. Instruct them to listen to you. If not, they're not going to know. You need to tell them what you want them to do. And it's one of the most important lessons they can learn in life is to obey. Train them up. Teach them. One which will serve them their entire life is that one lesson. Teach them to obey. One of the things I ache over coming out of Missouri is the view that the police are the enemy, and that you disrespect them by throwing rocks at them and criticizing their daily walk and what they do. And what hurt me watching that on TV was the disregard for authority and the disdain for those with a uniform. My dad was a police officer, and it was a tough thing to see that type of. I can't imagine the turning against a police officer just for the fact that he put on a uniform. Somebody trained those people to do that. Someone had to at least not train them to respect them. You have to teach children to obey. Because, first of all, it's just what's right. That is the only command in all Scriptures addressed specifically to children. It's the only thing they really need to learn as children is to obey. It's important to get that down. It's a tough deal when you have to keep spanking them. But I don't know how many of y'all have children who've had that point where you tell them to do something and they're not going to do it. They're testing the waters. I remember those lines drawn in the sand. Every one of my children had them. Lauren was hilarious, She had this concept when it hit her that she was not going to obey me. It was like night and day. I could see it when it happened. And we just took a church up here in Smyrna, and she was still young. And I remember telling her to throw something in the trash. He was throwing something in the trash, right? What was it? I think, yeah, the first. Oh, yeah. So I told her, I said, throw that in the trash. Or pick it up. First, she didn't want to pick it up. Pick it up. Pick it up. And so just the fact that now I can pick that trash up and go in there, but I had to try to get her to do that. And spanking was part of that daily training of that day of just picking that piece of paper up and throwing it in the trash. And guess what? I won that day. It was a great victory in the Bailey household that my daughter picked up a piece of trash she threw on the floor and put it in the garbage can. Oh, it's just the greatest thing. And so she learned to obey. And it took 2 hours, I think, to get that piece of paper in that trash can. It was a line drawn in the sand. She was going to obey. And then, so I thought, this is a great victory. Awesome. This child's going to obey me. And she wanted to obey. Oh, yes, she did. Because the consequences were horrible. So I guess it was the next day. She reaches over and she has the phone off the hook. And I told her, Lauren, put up the phone. She looks at me. I'm like, put up the phone. Child, and I'm getting up, and her eyes are getting about this big, and she is going up as high as she could go. Me telling her, come around, put that phone up, and Tammy realizes the situation is getting ready to transpire. That Lauren is doing everything she can do, possibly in her ability to obey me, but my perception of what she should be doing was totally different than hers. And so Tammy intercepted another spanking that day because Lauren was doing everything she could do to put that phone up. But I forgot to tell her to hang it up onto the wall. So, sometimes you just gotta understand that what you're saying is not what they're hearing. So, but train your children, teach them. It's the most important thing you can do as a child is to train a child to obey. A daddy had 4 kids, and he went to the store and bought one present. And so he comes in and he shows him the one present. He says, okay, kids, gather around. Which one of you is going to get to play with this present is the one that obeys mommy and does everything she says to do? And just a hush of silence. They thought it over. And all voices echoed in at the same time. You play with the toy, Daddy. You play with it. Go ahead. Because Daddy was trained, you obey Mama. But we do need to teach our children to obey. It's a breakdown of society if we don't do that, and it's a shame on us if we miss this opportunity to train up our children. It's important to do so. And I had a whole thing of statistics. Statistics bore me, and I figured they'd bore you too. They're very impressive on paper, but if I start telling them to you, it's going to go over your head. But the statistics are saying that in homes where children are not given rules and regulations, those homes, percentage-wise, are more likely, those children are more likely to go into things that's detrimental to society. Drugs, crime. If there's not a structured do's and don'ts in the home, and they're forced to obey them, expected to obey them. And then it talks about the overbearing home, where it's like, this is my way, and there is no options, no discussion, and the oppression in what happens when those kids reach a older age. And the response happening after that is that they tend to still do what they want to do because they've given rules with no moral reasoning behind it. So they can't choose on their own what's right and wrong. That's not training them correctly. You can train up a child, and you can make them do what you want them to do, but if they don't know why you're asking them to do it, then when they get out of your reach, they're going to do what they think is right because you've not told them why this needs to be done this way, why this has to be done this way. So the whole statistic was talking about, in this book, it's not a book yet, it's a study still going on with a college, and it will be coming out next year, talking about this whole concept of how homes that handle children in different ways. The common denominator of a good child leaving the home to do what they feel is right and become a very well-adjusted person in society, is that the parents were there teaching, yes, but even if it was a single home or a double home, if the rules had a relationship with them, in other words, you train them, not just don't do this because I say don't do it, but you say don't do this because, that's going to burn you, or this is going to hurt you, or people are not going to see you in the way you need to be seen because you are a person of honor and respect and speaking good things into a child. So we have kids leaving homes that are just not been trained, and it's getting worse. Holly Springs is training for children.